Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more Legacy action. This week we got the B&R update for Legacy and obviously all the other formats, but there was no changes for Legacy, which means that we can pretty much be sure that Blue-Black Tempo is going to be the best and most played deck going forward for a little while. So for our midweek meta deck, I thought we'd play the number one deck in the format, and here it is. This particular list comes from Tim van der Lands, who won the Bazaar of Boxes at the weekend just gone, I think. And it's a pretty stock looking list for the most part. We've got ourselves the pretty busted Tamiyo, which can just solo games out on its own very easily and just completely warps how the game works. We've got threats in the form of Orcish Bowmasters, a couple of Barrowgoyfs, a Brazen Borrower, 2 Kaito, and the 3 Murktide Regent is like the big daddy blue threat that is pretty much a staple of Legacy at this point. And then we just got the good blue and black cards around it. So we've got our Brainstorms and Ponders to find what we need. We've got ourselves some removal in the form of 4 Fatal Push and 1 Snuff Out. We've got ourselves Thoughtseize to attack the hand. We've got a set of Force of Wills and some Dazes in there as well. We're obviously a Wasteland mana base here with 1 of each basic and 1 Surveil land. At the sideboard, we've got some counterspells, different stripes between Force of Negation, Hydroblast, and Consign to Memory. We've got some more removal in Shoulder's Edict and Toxic Deluge. I've seen a lot of people going up to 2 Toxic Deluge because of the Ocelot Pride decks, but I think this particular list only has 1, and instead is going for an Engineered Explosives for a similar effect that can also do different things. So I like having the 2 sweepers in the sideboard. We've got some Surgical Extractions and Grafdigger's Cages for graveyard decks, and another little Brazen Borrower here in case we need more of that sort of effect to bounce some stuff out. That's pretty much it. You've seen stuff like this before. I do think that Tamiyo is probably a little bit too good for Legacy. However, what I will say is that playing a deck like this is quite enjoyable. You do get a lot of nice little decisions to make, so even though we're doing something a little bit over the power curve in my opinion, we're going to have a good time because we get to make lots of decisions. Alright, like, subscribe, and let's get stuck in with Tim van der Lands' Bazaar of Boxes winning Blue-Black Tempo deck. For free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping on high-end singles, classic products, and full sets, check out 3for1 Trading. Whether it's the Legacy or pre-modern that I play on this channel, or even vintage and old school, they've got you covered. Find them through the link in the description of this video and use my code COW3 for free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. We are into round number 1. We've got Thoughtseize, we've got Removal Spell, we've got another Removal Spell, we've got Bowmasters. I like these tools. There is a chance we just get Wasteland out of the game, but we can play on quite low mana anyway, so just drawing 1 land can get us back into things quite quickly. I think we will fire off the Thoughtseize on 1. We have nothing else going on. We could just play out the Wasteland, but I don't think that's a great place to be, because then our opponent knows to fetch around it straight away, and we're less likely to get use out of it. So let's get our Thoughtseize going, and hope our opponent doesn't just Wasteland us. No Wastelands over there, but we're seeing Numidian Hatchery, so what does that mean for us? Some sort of like mono-black Pox deck, perhaps? If we're looking at Pox, what am I not interested in facing down here? So we've got an answer to the Nethergoyf, so we're not taking that. The Snuff Out is an answer to our Murktide Regent, which is probably how we're planning on winning this game. The Pithy Needle can answer a Kaito or a Tamiyo, but we have neither of those in hand right now. We don't really care about them answering the Wasteland. The Cling to Dust, they just get use out of this in the graveyard anyway. I think it's a Snuff Out. We're just sort of playing for the longer game when the Murktide Regent gets to jump in, because we trade this Fatal Push for their Nethergoyf. Our own Snuff Outs look pretty poor here. I'm not a big Snuff Out enjoyer, to be honest. I find it's dead quite often when a lot of the best creatures in the format right now are black. It is a bit of a sketchy one. Okay, we don't have to do anything here. We can just hold. We need to make some choices about this Numidian Hatchery. Like, you can just waste out straight away and just give them 1 guy. I'd rather not be going down on our overall amount of mana. So our opponent attacks for 1 with his Nethergoyf. We can trade an Orc army potentially for this. Although if they play out a fetch land, we don't get to do that because then they can grow it. But we can just take 2 and then crack back with 2. And then their Numidian Hatchery is also going to be hitting them down. So we're going to be sort of trading damage. And then we can get the Fatal Push down afterwards. So try and get them to opt into a race that doesn't work. I've also never seen this art for Verdant Catacombs. An Underground Mortuary. So they're trying to grow the Nethergoyf by +1. This Cling to Dust might be annoying in terms of stopping our Murktide Regent doing the thing it needs to do. But we'll worry about that later. I left a card on top. I wonder what that means for us. I'm not going to trade a Bowmaster for this. But I will get the Bowmaster in and start dealing damage. They had the option of playing a Pithy Needle here, possibly naming Wasteland. They decided against that. Alright, we got some black mana in the pool. They're going to Cling to Dust our Thoughtseize. Yep. I don't think it's worth trying to hold up this Bowmasters and trying to get them when they do the Cling to Dust. Right. I don't mind having this land. This gets us to surveil, which is kind of huge. Attack these creatures. I think at this point, we don't really want to be wastelanding this Umidin Hatchery. We need to try and get some stuff in our bin and get this Murktide up and running. Here's a Bloodstained Mire. What are you going to do? A Thoughtseize. Alright, I will kill your Nethergoyf here. Would love a Brainstorm to get rid of this Snuff Out. So they'd probably take the Murktide here. That would be what I would take. It's not always the easiest thing for them to remove. Especially when we already took their removal spell for it. I don't know how many removal spells like this they'll have. They took the Snuff Out. Okay, so we're probably going to see a different coloured creature here, I would imagine. Interesting. So like Badgermole Cob? No, black. Him to Turret. Okay, they're just taking everything. Sure. It didn't matter what they took there. Right, let's go and get a Surveil land. Force of Will. You are not what this game is about anymore. That can go into the graveyard. At some point, they're going to lose this hatchery and we're in trouble. A Daze. Very unlikely to be useful sort of card, that one. We could wasteland something to make this Daze more reliable. Yeah, I think I'm down to try and make the Daze actually live here. Because our opponent's life total isn't the highest. If we can just tread water for a little bit longer, we can get over the finish line. And we can bounce this Undercity Sewers with our Daze. Although we're already getting towards Murktide Regent mana. So it's a case of do I value the Surveil or having a Murktide Regent off the top more. Alright, let's see if they play a 3-drop here. So put them to 6. Okay, they're just surveilling here. Not surprised to see multiple Surveil lands in our opponent's deck. But we need to be able to not stack it to a smallpox. Pithing Needle. Don't care about that. What are you going to name? Kaito? Polluted Delta. Alright, we're going for the cheese. Fair enough. Alright, an Underground Sea. We'll leave this in hand so that we have the ability... Actually, if we play it out, then we can bounce the Undercity Sewers with a Daze and get a Surveil. So I think actually we are playing it out. Because that way we don't turn ourselves off of a potential Murktide the next turn. Now our opponent's only at 5, so we're not going to need that much to get there. But if we see something like a Barrowgoyf here, it's not going to be our best friend. Alright, they're just bringing back the Nethergoyf. I don't think there's any point dazing this. We do get our Surveil land back, and we make them tap the hatchery. I don't think that's quite good enough. Another Bowmasters, you say? They can also start... Oh wait, no, they had to get rid of their Cling to Dust. I was going to say they could start doing Cling to Dust stuff, but they've just gotten rid of that one. I guess it was the only instant. No, they could have got rid of the Snuff Out. Yeah, that was a mistake. They should have just got rid of the Snuff Out instead of the Cling to Dust. Another Nethergoyf. Yep. Not super in love with that for us. We need you to tap your Umidin Hatchery a few more times there. Oh, tap them both. Just keep tapping them. I will chump. Will I chump block here? Okay, they're not even asking us if we want to chump block. So we have a decision here. We can hold on to this Orcish Bowmasters. What we can do with the Bowmasters is block with this army token and then get another army token the next turn. Stacking this up to a 2-2 doesn't really matter. I think we're just not going to do anything here. And just hold this to try and chump block to give us enough turns to draw out and get the last points of damage across. A Tamiyo. Well, that's certainly one of the very best cards in our deck. I'm not going to be attacking here. They might like fire off a Cling to Dust. They try and draw an extra card. We can get in with more pings on our Bowmaster. But otherwise, we're just using this as an extra chump block. Liliana of the Veil. I could Daze this to put this back in my hand and then fashion Bowmaster. No, I think we just let the Liliana stick around. Are you going to try and make me sack one of my guys? That goes very well for us because we can just ping down the last point of this Liliana. They are indeed. I will sacrifice this Orc army token. We're going to rumble in here. We are rumbling in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will put our opponent to 1. Yeah, I'm willing to take 6 here. Alright, let's ping their face. We can always send one of our guys at the Liliana. Murktide Regent, you say? Alright. I will do some attacking. So this comes at Liliana. This comes at them. We're going to have the kill next turn, so we don't need to go all in and out on this attack. We can just deal with the bits and pieces they have here and dump down a Big Daddy Barrowgoyf. By attacking with the Orc army there, we would have been able to put our opponent to 2, which maybe makes dazing like actually worthwhile because they'll have to pay a life. However, if something goes really wrong here and like we lose our Murktide, these guys are already going to be 4/5s because we put the Liliana into bin. So if they had like any sort of artifact that could then deal with something, we'd be in trouble. So I think we just had to play it safe because we had the guaranteed win the following turn. To the sideboard. Interesting. What do I like here? This removes a Liliana. So that's kind of interesting to me. I like Engineered Explosives for all their little guys. It's an awkward one with like... I don't really want to be doing 2-for-1 trades with our opponent, but we do have to stop a Smallpox hitting us because that is just not okay. Barrowgoyf is a card of Ice threat that can just snowball out of control, so I think we want that. They're not really playing anything from the graveyard that we've seen. They might have Loam, but that's obviously not going to be stopped by the Grafdigger's Cage because Dredging isn't stopped by it. Brazen Borrower, being able to bounce out like a big creature or bouncing out something in response to a Liliana Plus is interesting. So these are probably the things I'm somewhat interested in. I think the Dazes are coming out here, especially on the draw. So that gives us these three, which are the best three. And then we have to decide if we want this other Borrower and how we would fit that in. The Thoughtseizes are really interesting here because they do have some pretty significant stuff that I don't want to have to be like trading 2-for-1. Maybe just strip out a Force of Will because we do want to have some number of them. But I think Thoughtseizes mainly what we're going to do is try and nail the Smallpoxes and go from there. Like, there's an argument for doing Surgical Extraction to deal with any potential Life from the Loam, because they probably have Life from the Loam. Alright, I'll have a Miser's Extraction in, I think. We could swap our Force of Wills with Force of Negations to deal with the Life from the Loam. That is another option. But sometimes we're going to want to Force of Will, like a Murktide Regent, sorry, not a Murktide Regent, a Barrowgoyf. It becomes a little bit awkward. The Snuff Out. Actually, get the Snuff Out of here. Alright, we'll try this. The Wastelands aren't necessarily our best tool, but they can sometimes come in clutch. I will keep this one. We're on the draw, so finding another land should be doable. We can just go into Planeswalker mode with the Tamiyo and just get a free game. Like, one of the reasons to play blue at tempo is because you get a number of games that are just free games where the Tamiyo just wins a game on its own. If you ever have like a turn 2 Tamiyo, they go to remove it and you brainstorm. That game is almost always over. A Eumidian Hatchery. Alright. I'm kind of interested in wastelanding this. Our opponent is on reduced resources. And we're just going to... So they're going to get one guy, because they can tap some response. But we can pick that off with a Bowmaster in a few turns' time. We don't care about a 1-1 guy. But our opponent's multi-5 and we're sat here with double wasteland. Could be pretty brutal. Again, a basic over there or not. They just might not cast anything this turn. They didn't cast anything last turn with their hatchery. Okay, we've drawn a land. This is great news for us. I will just lead off on this Underground Sea, though. This means that if we do get Wasteland, it's not the end of the world. So let's see what they're working with over here. A Smallpox. I do not want a Smallpox to happen. Like, our opponent, do they set themselves back more? I mean, let's just take the Smallpox. Like, we don't want to have to play that sort of game. So now they're going to go get Surveil Land, which will open them up to a Wasteland potentially next turn for us. We can just cut them off of black, which is very strong. They left a card on top. There's a Wasteland. I assume we're getting Wastelanded here. Yep. This is the sort of game our opponent needs to play when they're on such reduced resources. And we're just eventually going to pull out of this and it's going to be fine. I'm not going to play this Tamiyo out into the known fail push. I'm just going to Wasteland them and just keep this going. I'm assuming we're going to find a land off of this and our Brainstorm. There's the Forest we knew about. I don't know how many spells this Forest is actually going to cast for our opponent. If they find a Life from the Loam, they can undo this whole early game. That will be annoying for us. I'll get this Scalding Tarn. We have a choice between doing Brainstorm or Surveil Land. I think using the Surveil Land is better here because we already have access to something we want to use our Brainstorm for. Alright, they've got the hatchery, so Black Mana is back on the menu. Is it just a Loam? I don't really want to see a Loam here. With a Bloom Command. I actually think I'm going to... Will they get back here? A Wasteland? I don't really want to have to deal with a Wasteland. Yeah, I think I'm just going to say no to this one. Just stop our opponent from being able to play the game. I would like to get Surveil Land here. Which could be slightly risky. Not risky at all. Excellent. We could just make the Tamiyo now while our opponent's got nothing going on. And then it just shuts down all their insects forever. And we can just play that whole game again. Tamiyo. Brainstorm around this fatal push that we know you have. What do we want to put back here? I'm not really doing surgical extraction stuff right now. Right, I'll put these two back. Flip the Tamiyo. All of a sudden, insect tokens do nothing. But we've kept the Surgical Extraction in our hand because it's something we can actually use. Alright, you're just going to hit my land there. You got it. Plus this. I could take my opponent off of black mana entirely, or I could get this Orcish Bowmasters in. We know the next card down is another Orcish Bowmasters. I think I'm going to hold up this Orcish Bowmasters. Are they going to start charging up their hatchery here, or are they just going to leave it? Right, we're charging. I don't think I want to Surgical Extract any of these cards. The odds of them having another Wasteland. Liliana of the Veil. Okay. Each player discards a card. I will discard Murktide Regent. Could be. And then we can just Bowmasters into Bowmasters here. They got rid of their Fatal Push. Goodbye to their insect token. We untap. We plus on this. We deploy the Bowmasters. Pin the Liliana. It grows our Orc Army token. We kill the Liliana. Our opponent is hellbent with no action in play. We have a Tamiyo that's about to win. I guess the one way they can beat us here is if they have an Orcish Bowmasters. So we're just going to Surgically Extract before we pop this Tamiyo, just to make sure the coast is clear. What do I not care? What do I not want to see here? If they do have an Orcish Bowmasters, we're not even that bothered by it, are we? Okay, I guess we just take out their... I don't even care about their Wastelands that much. Alright, we're just going to have a look and see what's in their hand before we minus our Tamiyo. Okay, they have a Liliana in their hand. So we are safe to draw half of our library. And their opponent's going to scoop to this because Tamiyo is busted. Alright, a nice little clean 2-0 against some sort of Pox variant. I have to imagine they're lone Pox. Let's go to round number 2. Okay, we've got Island Ponder Keep here. We've got ourselves some emergency buttons to press against combo decks. I would like to work out what our opponent's running from this first turn so I know whether we're Thoughtseizing or Pondering. Also, if we just draw a land, then we can Thoughtseize. But if we don't draw one of our coloured lands, then we're going to have to make a decision about Pondering or not. So I don't want to just get Wasteland out of the game. Okay, so we're playing against Eldrazi. I think Wastelanding my opponent here makes a lot of sense. And then we get another turn to work out what we're drawing and seeing how we want to sculpt for the following turn. Alright, that's nice. We can afford to just play this out and Thoughtseize our opponent now. 2 life in an aggro matchup isn't great, but what we're going to take out of their hand is going to be something that deals way more damage. Which of these bothers me most? They have 2 mana, so the only thing they can realistically cast right now is the Chalice. And I don't really want to have to play against the Chalice for now. So I am going to take this Chalice. It's either we use a Thoughtseize on it or we use a Force of Will on it because we have these ponders that we need to leverage. Secluded Courtyard. Are we just going to see a Grizzly Bear? Nope, no Grizzly Bear. They could have just played the Wastegate Battle Mage. They decided against it. Let's go for a Ponder. We're just trying to secure land drop so we can make our guy. That is a land drop. And I will invest in a Tamiyo here. It's not at its best in this particular matchup because our opponent is... So Tamiyo's kind of defined the format right now. So a lot of decks try and go under a Tamiyo. And the Eldrazi aggro deck is one of those decks. So next turn we can make a 3/4 Barrowgoyf. Lotus Petal is fine. It might even be bigger if we use the Force of Wills here. If they just play a Glaring Fleshraker, do I even care? I think the thing I care most about is like the K command. Oh, they're just using K command straight away on this guy. And drawing a card. This game is not about this Tamiyo. I was just saying that this isn't a great card because we don't get the time to leverage the clues from it usually. So they got rid of the removal spell they had that would have been able to deal with this Barrowgoyf. And they just put a Kindred instant into the graveyard. Daze is nice as well. Just go and get Barrowgoyf in. Now they can bounce this with a Wastegate Battle Mage and then we have to redeploy it. But that means they spend their turn playing a Grizzly Bear. And then we just get to play it again. And we've still got a lot of counter magic available. Yep, so here comes the Wastegate Battle Mage, bounce our guy. You got it. When our creature for 3 mana is bigger than our opponent's Reality Smasher, and it has lifelink as well, and draws us cards, feels pretty disgusting. Okay, so they can do a lot this turn. Glaring Fleshraker. I'm going to answer that one with this Daze. Oh, sorry, with this Forcible Pitching Daze. And then they can play another Fleshraker. No. And now we're just going to rumble in with our 6/7 Barrowgoyf. Kids in the chat going wild, I'm sure. Let's bash in with this Barrowgoyf. I guess we could have... I was thinking we can't add additional types here, but we do have Planeswalker, but we're not going to mill over a Kaito, are we? We have a choice, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can try and get the Surveil land and see if we can make our Murktide slightly bigger here, which is what I'm going to do. We could have done this pre-combat just in case we got the Kaito and we wanted to pump the Barrowgoyf. But like I said, I don't think we want to mill over a Kaito here. Thoughtseize, sure, that can go into the graveyard here. That gives us an even bigger Murktide. Also, if our opponent lets us connect with the Barrowgoyf, then having stacked the top of our library isn't going to be the most useful thing. We almost have lethal damage going into next turn. There's definitely some stuff our opponent can do that hurts us. The third Glaring Fleshraker into Reality Smasher, I would assume. They can't attack with the Smasher. Gaining life for this Barrowgoyf is going to be difficult because our opponent can just block it with a token and then sack the token, which is why we were so keen to... What are they doing there? They're just making tokens, yeah. Which is why our opponent was so keen to get the Fleshrakers in early. And they were prioritising that over the Smashers. And that's why we went after them, because we didn't want them to just be able to blank our life gain. But at this point, we've just got a 2-turn hit with our Murktide, and we can just stymie any aggression using the Barrowgoyf. We just need our opponent to not have a turn where they just cast 2 more Kozilek's commands. Like they just untap K command, that probably can finish us off because we're going to be taking a bunch of damage from these Fleshraker pings. Hit the Herald's End, that's pretty good. That turns these guys into real creatures. I believe the Barrowgoyf is better on blocks than attacks here. Yes, I would like to brainstorm. Find me something to deal with these. Kaito. Don't really have the mana to make the most use of Kaito. I could... Nah, Kaito just doesn't seem like the one here, does it? I think I'm going to put these back and then we're just going to ponder looking for some sort of removal spell for this Fleshraker. These aren't quite the removal spells I had in mind. I wanted to Snuff Out. Because if we Fatal Push this, we're going to need... I guess we could take the Fatal Push to deal with the Herald's End, and that's not nothing. And I guess we can put them like this, because we only need to get through 1 turn. So we've got perfect information of our opponent's hand. We're cracking for 8 here. We need our opponent to not kill us this turn. And the Herald's End can be finished off with Fatal Push. And if, let's say, they somehow get rid of one of our creatures, that'll turn on Revolt, which means we can get rid of the Fleshraker, if that's what we need to do for that turn. Blue mana. The only thing they do with blue mana is bounce our guy. Yep, here comes the bouncy boy. They could go for a win here. So, yeah, they're bouncing our guy, which means they should get blown out by this Fatal Push. Oh, I need to do more maths here, don't I? So this is 1, 2, 3. So if we were to kill this, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 damage. If we kill this... So if we kill this, we block like 3... So we kill this, we block 1 damage, 2, 3, 4, 5 damages. If we kill this, we block 1, 2 damages. Plus its own body 4. So we actually save more by blocking the Herald's End because we know the last card in our opponent's hand. Sure. So you do a little bit of maths there. I don't think I've messed this one up. I think we finish on 1 life. We take 3 plus 6. Sorry, we take 5 plus 2, which is 7. Yes, we finish on 2 life. And then the Murktide is lethal. And then we got the concession there. Yeah, our opponent did a good job of trying to sneak in underneath us, but we managed to stop it. What would I like for this matchup? Consign to Memory seems like the very best thing we have on offer. Barrowgoyf, also pretty good. Anything that removes creatures, I'm down for. Toxic Deluge is always a weird one, because it costs us so much life to kill their guys. But it's still often worth it. Engine Explosives, the only thing that this can blow up is the little tokens, and maybe Chalice. So we have to decide if that's what we're interested in. So these 3 are sort of like in the maybe pile, but these 5 are in the yes, let's get these right in my deck pile. Daze, I'm not in love with this on the draw. I like the Kaitos. The Bowmasters are pretty bad as well. They're not doing the most for us. I don't really think we want Thoughtseizes on the draw. That leaves us with something that looks like this. Can we afford to have Toxic Deluge and Snuff Out? Uncertain, to be honest. I think we're going to try it like this and see how it goes. Like the Tamiyos aren't great either. We could have some more counters just so we don't get hit by Chalice early on. We'd have this to deal with Chalice instead of the Borrower. But the Borrower does attack and our opponent can't really block flyers. And they sometimes get low off their own lands, so the Brazen Borrower is pretty handy there. Do I want the Toxic Deluge? Maybe we'll just go for this Engineering Explosives, because the Toxic Deluge is going to cost us a lot of life to kill the bigger stuff anyway, whereas this can kill the little things and the Chalice, and that's fine. Sweeping out all their 0 drops is actually really relevant when you're trying to connect with a Barrowgoyf, because then you get to actually connect with it, and then instead of them just blocking and sacking so you never gain the life. Because every swing of like 5 or so life in your favour is really handy. Our opener doesn't have any lands that work, so let's mulligan this one. Alright, this is better. Keep this. Are we moving cards around more? I think we can do without the Borrower. So one of these Brainstorms is probably going to be pitched to a Force of Will. Alright, nothing from our opponent on turn 1. That's pretty nice for us. Let's just run back what we did last game. Let's Wasteland you. If you're not doing anything with your Soul Land on turn 1, I'm certainly going to take it away from you. Now, sometimes this is bait for the Cavern of Souls. We'll play this one out so we can Brainstorm in an emergency and hide things off of the Thoughtseer. Now, even if they do have a Cavern of Souls, we can still counter some things with the Force of Will. So the Kozilek's Command being the main one. That card is quite outrageous, so being able to stop that is nice. A Wasteland and no follow-up play. I don't think we need to Brainstorm here. Consign to Memory is one of the very best cards in our deck for this matchup. Our opponent has done nothing in the first 3 turns of the game. Not really where you want to be in a stompy deck. Now, we did obviously take them off of some mana. So it felt like they were trying to do turn 2 Thoughtseer with Temple into Temple. So here comes... It's going to be Chalice of the Void. I'm going to Brainstorm at least. I like a lot of these cards. Am I willing to force this because I have the Consign? Like, Fatal Push is pretty important. What are we pitching? Is it the Ponder? I think it is the Ponder. We know we've got Fetch Land on top, which makes our Brainstorm better. There's a Bowmasters on top if we need it, so we can Brainstorm Fetch Land here. We can also just Consign. We've got Fatal Push ready to trigger Revolt using this Polluted Delta. If not, we can just start getting some power in. So our opponent can make some pretty large boys. A Glaring Flesh Wreck, you say? I think I'm going to immediately spark this out with a Fatal Push once we get priority. Thoughtseer. So I'm going to crack this. We don't have any more basics, unfortunately. So we are going to have to get Underground Sea here. Going to Fatal Push this guy. And then we're going to cast with Replicate. And then the copy is going to go on the Flesh Raker trigger. So we're going to counter the Thoughtseer and the Flesh Raker trigger here. Our opponent's got 3 cards in hand, and they've got decent mana to deploy something else here. Alright, they're not deploying anything else, they're just wastelanding us. So we're drawing blind off the top. Alright, Brainstorm. Okay, I like these cards. Do you want to hide this Barrowgoyf from potential problem next turn? I think we do. Kind of want both of these cards, though. We can put the Tamiyo on top, and then the Bowmasters. No, the Barrowgoyf, and we hide the Barrowgoyf for next turn. And play the land out, not intending on cracking it. Next time we can play the Barrowgoyf, it's going to be significant, I would say. We got here instant, artifact, creature, land. No sorcery. No sorcery. So we draw the Barrowgoyf, we let the Tamiyo go. So they're not playing stuff out, which kind of makes you think they might have some Wastegate Battle Mages over there. Let's just get a 4-5 in. And then I'd rather this be bounced than a Murktide, because if this gets bounced, we replay it, it's still the same size. If the Murktide Regent gets bounced, then it kind of jams us up a bit. Cavern of Souls. So now they can play around counter spells that we don't have anymore. White mana. I assume this is just going to be colourless mana. Okay, yeah. It felt like they were trying to play a Flesh Raker there. They've got 2 cards in hand. One of them is the Herald's End. That makes our Bowmasters a little bit worse, because we can at least try and get one of these off the board. If we draw a land, we get to double spell. We didn't draw a land. Our opponent's got very few cards left, so I'm willing to just trade this for a... Well, not trade this. I'm willing to just wipe this Eldrazi Spawn off the board for now. Yep. And then they sacrifice it so they don't gain any life. And now we have a choice. We can either dump this big Murktide in. If we get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, we can still keep the 1 instant in for this. So we can make a quite large one. I think we're going to do that because we might not have blue for much longer if our opponent top decks a Wasteland. So if we just get rid of most of the stuff, but not all of the stuff. So we can keep our Barrowgoyf as big as we can get it. And now we're in the similar position that we were in the first game, where we've just got a big, chunky board. And the main thing we're worried about is Fleshraker just pinging us into oblivion. Okay, this looks like line breaker time. Makes sense they would have a line breaker if they've not been able to cast stuff. Although they must have drawn that this turn, because otherwise they would have cast it last turn. Because you can just juice up one of your tokens and throw that in. Are they gonna? What are they gonna juice here? They can try and make us trade. Alright, they're pumping itself. Okay, so we're going to trade our Murktide for a line breaker here. We're still going to take 1 damage for the pleasure. But this card is pretty messed up, so we can't really just let that one stick around. If we draw a land, we can shoot their Eldrazi Spawn token twice. And then that will force a real block with this guy. Okay, we didn't get that. What are we doing here? I think we go Fatal Push on... No. We do it a different way. If we go Bowmasters first and ping the Eldrazi Spawn, they'll let this go through because they'll be like, why are they doing that? Yeah, so then we get our token, and now we get to hit this. And then this will die to state-based effect of having 1 damage on it. And then if they want to block, they have to block with their Fleshraker at this point. Because if we do it the other way around, they sack the Spawn, and then we don't get the Orc Army. Like, there's an argument that you just... sack it straight away anyway, and our opponent could do that, but I think it was way more likely they let us have an army the way we did it. Okay, I'll take this Tamiyo. It blocks. That's all it needs to do. We gain 4 life, which is huge, and now this is a 5 power guy because we put a sorcerer in the graveyard, just leaving our graveyard popped up over here. I think we've done enough to get through this one, I would hope. They've got 1 card in hand. Our board is pretty strong. Any colorless spell does mean that they get a token, though. Alright, they just played a land out. That is not where you wanted to be there, was it, opponent? We can attack with everything, and then we have Orcish Bowmasters. It's a very telegraphed Orcish Bowmasters, but is our opponent in a position where they can afford to get around this? I guess it could also be a Fatal Push that we're telegraphing. Send in the clowns. Yep, we're just going to take it all. We're going to go back up to our starting life total. Get a Brazen Borrower here. Then we're going to play an Orcish Bowmasters. I'm going to ping my own Orcish Bowmaster so I can Fatal Push their Fleshraker. Just leave them with nothing. Like, Orcish Bowmaster is not great in this matchup anyway. Sure, you can get an Eye of Ugin activation off at the cost of 2 life. If you play a creature, we get to bounce it. They might have the Devourer of Destiny, which can exile our Barrowgoyf, and then things can get a little bit funky from there. Sire of 7 Deaths. Ward pays 7 life. That's fine. I'll pay 7 life. We've got plenty of life to spare. We just bounce it. They know that you have the Brazen Borrower in hand, so they need Sire of 7 Deaths and something else. It's kind of sweet, though. Thoughtseize. That is really, really good. Okay, that was probably the single best top deck our opponent had there. So now our opponent is in a pretty good position. We can trade our Barrowgoyf off for their Sire of 7 Deaths, which might be a thing we have to do. So I have lifelink as well, doesn't it? Scalding Tarn, you aren't my friend. Do I want to do this right now or not? Alright, I think we're sending in the Barrowgoyf. If it trades with the Sire of 7 Deaths, we have to be okay with that. Yeah, okay. So trading off. We both gain some. Wait, what? Oh, it's got first strike. Too many words. I was too busy reading all the other ones. Oh, that was just a nightmare of a play. Okay. We are in the dirt now of our own making. It is the first word, so there's not really any excuses there. That was just tragically bad, and we were going to lose the game because of that. Now, we might have lost the game anyway, but that was rough. Okay. I don't think we're blocking here. I'm just going to go to 9. I guess we'll attack with this Tamiyo. This has got reach though, right? We could have Surveil Land as well. I'm just spiraling out a little bit here. Just going to get a Surveil Land. A Brazen Borrower. Where were you before? I don't think you're good enough anymore. Let's draw a card. No, this game's over. Now, if we just hold back that Barrowgoyf, we can block the Thoughtseize, but the Sire of 7 Deaths is just going to keep coming in and dealing more damage than we're able to. But we would have had a proper game to finish that one off. That was just my brain turning off there. Okay, let's just resubmit. Ponder can help us find some stuff. The explosives is going to be able to get through a chalice potentially. Maybe kill some little guys. I think we can do better than this though. Ugh, that's not better. Right, that is fine. 1, 2, 3. Get rid of a land and kind of like the Tamiyo. I'm going to believe in our ability to find a land for this Barrowgoyf. I'm not super in love with Tamiyo, but our opponent's probably going to do stuff to interact with this when they can. And if we can just build up some clues, this will help undo our mulligan a little bit. Like even the matchups where Tamiyo is bad, it's still reasonable a lot of the time. It's only like the really, really hyper fast matchups where it looks bad. There is a Lotus Petal. We're going to see here. Chalice of the Void. Switches off our Fatal Push. And comes Tamiyo. We don't have a lot going on with our Barrowgoyf right now. It's going to be quite small by the time it makes the battlefield. But if they crack this Lotus Petal, that's going to give us extra point of power on it. Cavernous Souls, naming Eldrazi. Yep. Here comes Mr. Linebreaker. Let's go and get a swamp here. Let's crack this clue token. It's the third land, which is not unhelpful. But this guy is going to be cracking him for a bunch. A Ponder. Now we can start chucking these cards just into the bin to try and power up our Barrowgoyf. Our opponent doesn't deal direct damage, so I think it's okay to get this Barrowgoyf down. Like the way they kill this will be stuff like the Kozilek's Command, which is going to care about the mana value of it. So if we send in the Tamiyo here, we can hold back the Tamiyo to save damage and also put a creature in the bin, but we can put a creature in the bin next time by casting it into Chalice anyway and just charge up our Barrowgoyf a little bit. Now, this Ancient Tomb is going to be somewhat costly to our opponent. Alright, they're bouncing our guy. Yeah, our opponent's just got such a tempo advantage over us here. And now this is going to get haste, and then we're going to get hit for a whole bunch of damage. This is the sort of situation where you could consider something like Toxic Deluge being useful. But the issue with that is, if we just were to Deluge here, we'd be down to quite a low life total. Alright, we do need to hold back the Tamiyo to block with now. Here is the Barrowgoyf. The Barrowgoyf does have Death Touch, so we can trade with stuff. A wastes white mana. It's a Reality Smasher? No. There's so much mana in the pool. This is Sire of 7 Deaths, isn't it? Well, it's an uncounterable 7/7 First Strike Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Life, Link, Ward, Pay 7. So this is just going to kill us right now. Yep. I think that second game, obviously the mistake of attacking into their First Striker guy was pretty bad. Whether or not we win that game, I don't know, because they probably just keep sending in with the Sire of 7 Deaths then. And this has got Vigilance, so we're never being able to crack back. So I think we still lose that game, even though we made an embarrassing misplay. Yeah, tough one, but you know the games were relatively even, and well, this one wasn't particularly, but the others were quite even. All right, let's go to round number 3. Sure, we have Tamiyo, we have Brainstorm. I hear that's a good way to play Magic the Gathering. Undercity Sewers. What sort of Undercity Sewers deck are you? I am happy to play this game. Let's Wasteland you. Our opponent could be playing some sort of Storm combo deck. Just a Flooded Strand and pass. Okay. There's no point in playing out this Tamiyo right now. I can just save this for when we need to. Because we can play it out with the Brainstorm backup. So that we might be able to get one over on our opponent if they try and remove it. And then we put our opponent in the checkmate position, really, or the check position, I should say, where they have a Tamiyo. If they try and kill it, we might save it and they lose their removal spell. But if they don't kill it, then we get drawing an extra card every turn. But let's see what our opponent does here. I would like it to be something I can Fatal Push. Well, would you look at that? It's something I can Fatal Push. Our opponent is going to get this Polluted Delta into the Void. We probably could have been slightly cleaner and gotten the Polluted Delta cracked before this came into play. Flooded Strand. This is going to go and get us an Underground Sea. And then we're just going to play the Tamiyo. I don't want to just flip this immediately or attempt to. We're going to try and stave off interaction using this Brainstorm. The ways this can go wrong for us is if they try and remove this and then we Brainstorm and then they Bowmasters over the top, but they've already cast a Brainstorm, so they're not going to be able to do that this turn unless they have a Snuff Out. Tamiyo of their very own. You got it. Let the clues commence. Yep, that is correct to just do that right there, I think. Now, we have the ability to Bowmasters if our opponent does something like cracking a Tamiyo clue or brainstorming Ponder. I think that is worth preying upon here. I'll put damage on the Tamiyo. Fatal pushing my Bowmasters. You got it. I'm going to hold this up so that we can play around a potential removal spell. If we crack this for a fetch land, maybe our opponent just pounces on it. Right, we're going to attack with both of our guys, and then we're going to put Kaito in instead of this Orc Army token. I'm just going to take my extra cards. Another Force of Will. We don't want this land. I don't know if I want this Force of Will. We already have Force of Will pitched in Tamiyo. I think we just put this into the graveyard as well. Right, we have 2 engines online. Our opponent has 1 engine online, so they're not doing terribly. They could try and remove my Tamiyo here, and then attack and put in a Kaito. That's probably their best option. We did have the option of tapping down their Tamiyo, so they couldn't make clues and they couldn't put in a Kaito. But if we just end up with dueling Kaitos, I think that probably benefits us because we went first. Bitter Triumph. No thank you, opponent. Right, forcing back. Do I want to brainstorm here, looking for an out? I don't think so. I'd rather get one more Clawfist Tamiyo before I brainstorm and start going to the moon. Again, in case of removal spell, I'm not going to brainstorm him just yet. Because next turn we can use our clues instead of brainstorm to crack and flip our Tamiyo so that we're protected. Our opponent is just brainstorming over there. They seem to have wriggled their way into a position of being ahead. I do like Bitter Triumph a lot more than Snuff Out. I think this card is just better. It just gives you the ability to actually destroy Planeswalkers, whereas Snuff Out doesn't. This can hit black creatures. Just seems a lot better to me. And they're tapped out here, so I think I'm okay. And they're playing the Bitter Triumph, so they're not going to be running Snuff Out. I think I'm okay getting the Undercity Sewers now. Brazen Borrower. That does answer our Tamiyo problem. Let's get ourselves a clue. Bounces Tamiyo. 2 cards left in our opponent's hand. It has to be Force of Will blue card. It is Force of Will blue card. Well, we're going to be brainstorming anyway, so we may as well brainstorm now. If we hit a Daze, this works. Did not hit a Daze. In fact, we hit absolutely nothing of value. Cool. We'll plus this. Play this. We'll crack this to shuffle those cards off the top, and we want to draw before our opponent can untap and play a Bowmasters. And there's that land again. They're getting back the Bit of Triumph, so they're going to be able to take out our Tamiyo, and we're just getting buried because they had Bit of Triumph, and we have Snuff Outs on our deck. Now, obviously, we didn't draw the Snuff Out, but just having access to Bit of Triumph in your deck is huge in this mirror. And now they are in the Tamiyo Supremacy. This would have been a great turn to draw a Bowmaster. Let's see if we can find one, shall we? If we can find the Bowmaster, we can finish off a Tamiyo. Murktide Regent. Okay. This isn't so bad. Let's Thoughtseize them. Take this Barrowgoyf. Get out of here. Let's go for a Murktide Regent. Make it large. This is a 1-turn kill, even through the Tamiyo plus. I'm just going to wasteland my opponent here and just slightly reduce the amount of resources they have, because if they want to crack a clue, I want it to cost them more. Okay, we might have found a way through here. Our opponent could have just raced to the top with the Tamiyo because we didn't have anything in our graveyard that actually messed with the Tamiyo. Alright, they scooped it up. Yeah, I think it was a mistake for our opponent not to plus the Tamiyo there and just keep going upstairs. Now, I can understand wanting to cash it in and getting the value there. But their Tamiyo was going to pop before ours were, and they could pop the Tamiyo and then kill our Tamiyo with something. Alright, for the mirror, we definitely want at least 2 Force of Wills out of our deck. Barrowgoyf is just a nice threat to have access to. I like the Shoulder's Edict. Alright, 1-for-1 removal is somewhere I want to be. If possible. Certainly better than 2-for-1ing ourselves. I like the Thoughtseize quite a bit here. The Snuff Out deals with Murktide Regent. Engineering Explosives is probably the only thing I'm interested in here apart from this selection. Like, the Borrower is okay. I guess we could trim on a Daze and get this Borrower in. Oh, sorry, no, that gets us Explosive, doesn't it? We need to trim something else to get the Borrower in. I do like having 2 Force of Wills, because they're very good when you're in the sort of mid to late game with the Tamiyo stuff going on. I just don't want the full set. Am I just taking out the Daze for this so we can interact with their Planeswalker a bit more? I think so. Sure, I like Thoughtseize, get the information, work out what our opponent's running with. We've got a Snuff Out, which can be useful against the Tamiyo. Our opponent might not think we have interaction for it. They go for a Brainstorm flip and then we smash it out when we're tapped out. That could be really handy. We've got a Swamp. Our opponent gets the first Thoughtseize, although ours has significantly superior art. So what do we lose here? It's Brainstorm, so that they can maintain the hand information they have. It's Thoughtseize, so that we don't get information, or it's Kaito, because this is just a really hard threat to manage. Those are the three things I'm expecting our opponent to take. They went for the Brainstorm. I like that a lot from our opponent. Don't like it for us, but there we are. Okay, another land. Yep. So by taking the Brainstorm, it does increase our just fail rate here. A Boron Oculus, Hymn to Turak, Thoughtseize, Brainstorm. Jeez. I don't really want to get hymned. I don't really want to get a Boron Oculus either. Yikes. Are we just supposed to take the Oculus? That feels horrible. Okay, I guess we take the Oculus. Because they can just Thoughtseize, clear the way for the Oculus and land it. We could take their Thoughtseize, but they can hymn and clear the way, and that's no good for us either. So I think we're just trying to make this game last a bit longer. I don't feel good about this one. Hymns Turak. Now hopefully we just discard some lands. Snuff Out on a land. Yep, I'll take that. We kept the best card in our hand. Can't say fairer than that. Now they have a Thoughtseize to then take that best card. Fatal Push. Not the best. Yeah, our opponent being on the Hymn to Turak build is massively going to favour them in this mirror. Yep, goodbye Kaito. It's an obvious take here. Now they still got this Brainstorm kicking around. Yep, enjoy. No land to follow up with, so their hand is all gas. Yikes. We're not going to turn away Kaito. We can't enable it just yet, but we'll get there in the end. That card is too good for me to throw away here. Another land, we can just try hard casting it. I don't know how many days our opponent's going to have. But the hand is obviously stacked with stuff. I guess it's stacked with interaction. Because otherwise we'd be playing something out here. But they can't play a Murktide. They can't play a Barrowgoyf. If this is a Bowmaster, we can then just fail push it. Okay, I like these cards a lot. Put this on top. The Bowmasters, then the Tamiyo. We can deploy a Tamiyo. I'm expecting this to get eaten, but we'll see. Some sort of fatal push, bit of triumph, that sort of jazz. But we're leaving this mana open, which can suggest a Brainstorm. They have a threat like a Bowmasters here. Right, okay, they're just dismembering it, that's fine. Our opponent has a different removal spread to us. Next time we can Bowmasters, we can use one of the bodies to get the Kaito in. And if we're in that position, I think we are odds on to win, maybe? I guess we know they have a bit of triumph. Oh, another Thoughtseize. It's the third Thoughtseize that kills you at the end. Okay, so we know we're drawing a Orcish Bowmasters. Can't remember what the card underneath it is. I think it's a land. An island. Do we just want to start getting in a clock here? I don't really want to be the first Bowmaster caster, but here we are. A Brainstorm in response. Use it or lose it, I guess. Now we get our ping in. Okay, this in our upkeep. I'm pretty sure it was a land on top. Petty Theft. Sure. Engine Explosives. Not a great one for us here. This does give us an out to things like Tamiyo. Because you can play this on one and pop it, and even if they Brainstorm in response, it'll still blow up the backside of Tamiyo. 4 mana. Is it time to get their Kaito down? It is indeed. We don't have a great way of dealing with this though. So probably just +1 to get an emblem to start with, yep. A Kaito of our very own would be useful here. That is not a Kaito of our very own. I believe we are attacking our opponent's face. I'm going to hold this for Brainstorm purposes. We don't have any more Surveil lands. I guess we're supposed to play this out so we can fatal push actually. But we can just fatal push on our turn anyway, and the mana difference ends up being the same. Yep. They're just going big in with Kaito here. Just giving it a 3-turn clock. Certainly going to outrace our Bowmasters. The fourth Thoughtseize. Sure, that puts them down to 5 life. They've got this Brazen Borrower, and they know they can just take this fatal push and have it resolve and be fine. Do they just cast it now? Yeah, they're casting it now. Play around Dazes. Makes sense to me. Fatal push, you say. Let's just kill the Borrower. Again, I don't think we win this game by attacking the Kaito. I don't think we win this game full stop, to be honest with you. So now the Kaito should just draw them extra cards. I haven't seen any Force of Negation from our opponent. We don't know how many they've boarded out. Alright, so now they're stunning our Bowmasters. We don't really have answers to Kaito in our deck, which feels like an issue with our individual list. I think the Bit of Triumphs and stuff are really, really good. I may have harped on about that one already though. Polluted Delta, they have lethal here. We are going to game 3. Do I want a second Daze on the play? I don't think so. I think I just like how we have sideboarded here. I wish we had more ways of answering a Kaito that hits the board, but we just don't. We have to live with that. Yep, let's just submit. Okay, we have some good cards here, but the Undercity Sewers is a little bit risky. I think we do keep this just down to how good the Bowmasters and the Kaito are. Our opponent's mulliganing, which certainly helps us out. There is a risk of getting slightly wastelanded out of this game. If they're on lower resources, stuff like Daze can become more useful. Let's get this Undercity Sewers going. Okay, what about a third Bowmaster? Sure. It's one of the best cards in the matchup. It's like Bowmaster and Kaito are a huge deal. Are we getting Thoughtseized? What would you take from our hand with a Thoughtseize here? Okay, it's an island, so we're doing Pondering. That's fine. They shuffled off their Ponder. That's a good sign for us. Because we have a non-basic here, we need to get another non-basic. Otherwise, they can waste us off of a colour. I could play a preemptive Bowmaster here. I think I'm going to do that. We have a Daze if they have another Bowmaster. And this just means that instead of trying to catch out a cantrip or something, we can just turn them off and put our opponent in an awkward spot. We don't want our opponent being able to brainstorm over the top of us casting a Bowmasters either. Alright, we're going to see Thoughtseize here. You got it. Our hand is pretty stacked here. Unless you have a Wasteland. And then we could be in trouble. What do you take here? The Kaito, probably? It's the Kaito or the Daze, I guess, depending on what they're trying to accomplish. Like, taking a Daze feels so bad with the Thoughtseize. It's such an easy card to play around. Knowing about the Daze as well is going to be pretty handy for our opponent. Our opponent's going to have full information here. We're just going to send in the clowns. We don't need to add an additional point of power here. We've got the clock, so our opponent is the one who has to do something, and we can just sit here. I'm almost interested in getting this Brazen Borrower down, because then they have two different things they want to Bowmaster. That's not always the easiest to accomplish. Alright, we're getting Thoughtseized again. We are getting Thoughtseized again. You go for it. Do you take my Borrower or my Daze? You can take one of the Bowmasters. If they take one of the Bowmasters, that is a real sign of distress, because that means they think they have to work through all of them. Alright, I took the Borrower. Sure. I am worried about Murktide Regent. There's an argument to try and get more damage in to make Murktide Regent less of an issue. Or to give them fewer turns for it to come down and change the game. So if we can get our opponent low enough, we might just be able to go around them. I think I will play out this Underground Sea because it allows us to double spell with the Bowmasters. Kind of wouldn't mind having a second Surveil land. Right, here is their Surveil land. Okay, they left the card on top. Is it a Murktide? Looks like a Murktide. No, 3 blue mana. Okay, it's a Barrowgoyf. We can't really answer that with a Daze. We're going to have to get pretty creative with answering this one unless we can find a removal spell. So I'm not going to crack this fetch land because this is going to be our Revolt enabler. Okay, I like the Wasteland. This gives us the ability to take them off of... Man, I'm going to take the Underground Sea. That way if they have their own Daze and they bounce their Underground Sea, that actually ends up being kind of annoying for them. Okay, so our opponent's going to be able to gain some life here. I would love to draw a Kaito. They're going down to 12 life. They have 3 cards in hand. What are we seeing here? They're not just going to hardcast a 4-drop into unknown Daze, unless they have a Daze of their own. An Abhorrent Oculus, you say? Oh, I hate that. I hate that a lot. Okay. We are in panic mode now. Our opponent's build does look like it's way better kitted out for the mirror. Snuff Out. Okay. Let's kill this Abhorrent Oculus. Step 1. I could kill this. The chances are this is just a 2-2. And there's not going to be anything underneath it. Okay. I guess we're just going to be chump blocking with the Bowmasters to stop our opponent drawing cards. With the Bowmaster token, I should say. If there's something good underneath this Manifest token, then we are just in a whole heap of trouble here. I guess I could ping down the Manifest token. I think we just ping our opponent's face here. We let them get the 2 damage in. We chump block here, because doing it this way means that we have more chump blocks available. I don't really want to trade off Bowmasters. If we can at least stop our opponent's cantrips, then we might be able to find a way back into this game if we can answer the Barrowgoyf. Kaito is good. Fatal Push is good. Oh no. Okay, they just had a Kaito. Yep, that's pretty devastating. Okay. Interesting they went for the emblem rather than going for the free cards there. Especially since when they surveil stuff over, it's going to grow their Barrowgoyf, potentially. I think we are just 100% dead here, though. Okay, maybe not. We found something that actually matters. Let's crack this. Let's go get an Underground Sea. Let's try and kill this Barrowgoyf. Alright, we succeeded in killing the Barrowgoyf. At this point, we are trying to do damage control. So I think we are attacking the Kaito here. Kaito's not great against lots of little bodies. It's really good against like singular big threats. So hopefully our parade of tiny little guys is going to get there. They got Bowmasters? No, they were dismembering. Playing around the Daze that they know about. It's why people like who say, oh, Daze should be banned, Daze is too strong. It's like, there's so many games where you sit there and the Daze is just awful. It just feels like a very weird... Why are they pumping here? They want to be able to two-turn us, I guess. I guess we're going to get a chump block here. We have to pin the face because this has hexproof. We could have played this on our turn to get another point of damage off on this Kaito. We just need to protect here. Come on, deck. Give us something good. Wasteland is not it. We attack the Kaito with everything we got. And pass the turn. So they can hit us with the Kaito here. Going up to 4. This means the Kaito will still kill their Kaito if we draw it next turn, which is why we attack that way. We need to draw a Kaito, basically. Otherwise, we are on chump block duty. Don't really care about the spell bomb. I could try and cycle this Daze by getting this Undercity Sewers back in our hand. Don't really like that. Okay, this is going to shut off Murktide Regent. Okay, so now we have to chump block our opponent. Okay, hate that for us. We are dead to Orcish Bowmasters here. Or any removal spell. Okay, they don't have any removal spell. I really like plussing this Kaito. This also means that we can't just finish this off with our own Kaito. So we basically need Brainstorm. Because we need multiple ways of getting through this. Our weakness to Planeswalkers is really catching up with us here. I think we've got the one-off Shoulders Edict. Thoughtseize, you can take my Stinky Daze. A Ponder, it's not quite a Brainstorm. It'll have to do. Any auto shuffle. Tamiyo means we're not dead, and then we can try and draw a Brainstorm next turn. We have to keep both back because they can tap one down. Would I rather have a Tamiyo in play or a Bowmasters? The Tamiyo next turn gives us an additional look at a Shoulders Edict, so we can attack, draw a card. So I think we probably let the Bowmasters go, but it probably unlocks our opponent's hand here. Like, they probably haven't been surveilling because they've been worried about Bowmasters, but honestly, I think the extra cards is going to be worth us having like a 1-1 guy. They're stunning the Bowmasters, forcing us to block with the Tamiyo so we don't get to see as many cards next turn. Yep, that's smart. We're getting dominated by our opponent's list here. Okay, Shoulders Edict, Brainstorm. It's a Wasteland, we're dead. Yeah, our opponent's deck is so much better than ours in the mirror, and it's kind of worrying. Like, I don't think we're going to be able to get through like them having actual answers to Kaito when we don't, because we are just stone cold dead to Kaito when it comes down. Alright, on to round number 4. No lands that work with our spells, so we're going to have to mulligan this one. Sure, I'll keep this one. Our opponent's gone to 5. What are we getting rid of here? Get rid of a Wasteland. And just keep all the business spells, just assume we're going to hit a land at some point. I don't hate that. Now, having Wasteland and Daze together is quite nice. Okay, our opponent's mulligan to 4. So I'm very glad that we've kept this Force of Will plan, because our opponent might be doing some Ootsel Spells type stuff. Fell Mire, there is an Ootsel Spells card. Thanks, I hate it. Let's see what we can get off of our... Okay, another Daze is nice at least. Let's Surveil. Thoughtseize is excellent. We've got a Daze that we can fire off next turn, or that we can fire off this turn, and a Force of Will. That should keep us safe. Alright, you're playing your lands tapped. You go ahead, opponent. Enjoy. Show me what you're working with. I will take your Balustrade Spy here. Now, they might have a Reanimate, but they tend to have one Reanimate if they have Reanimate. They could just go on the Poxwalker's Beatdown plan. I don't particularly think that's a great plan. Okay, they have the Reanimate here. The one of Reanimate. I guess we are Force of Willing that one. Now, they might have more than one Reanimate. I'm just talking about the stock lists. We're going to crack this. We could find a Brainstorm because there's something better to do. Okay, deck. Let's get this Barrowgoyf down. Let's hope our opponent can't beat Daze, Force of Will, Thoughtseize. It's turn 4. I think if we get 2 more turns, I think we'll be okay. Lotus Petal. Are you going to play out Poxwalkers to beat down? No. I think that's correct. You're not going to win the beatdown race versus the Barrowgoyf. Let's get stuck in with Big Daddy Barrowgoyf. Pop out our graveyard because we're going to be putting some stuff in it here. I will take a Brazen Borrower, I think. And then I will deploy... Will I deploy anything? I think I just hold this Brazen Borrower as beatdown plan. If our opponent plays out a guy, and then like the Undercity Informer, and they don't have the mana to pop it, and we could do something, but we know they already have the mana to pop it. So I think this is just get the most clock going that we can. Brazen Borrower, blue, 1. Let's get stuck in here. Hopefully we can find a creature to add to our clock, which Bowmasters will do. Let's get Tamiyo in. This is the turn our opponent needs to try and win the game. Our Poxwalkers into Unknown Orcish Bowmasters. You got it, opponent. Okay, we managed to get game 1 versus Oops or Spells. Nice. Blue-black tempo is probably one of the only things actually holding down Oops or Spells in a lot of ways. Okay, what do we want here? Grafdigger's Cage. Yes. Surgical Extraction. Sure. Force of Negation. It interacts. Signs of Memory is fine. How are we going to deal with their pivot plans? We don't know which build they're on, so I don't know what pivot plan they're going to have. Like, are we going to need these removal spells? Probably not. We definitely don't want the Snuff Out. That can just get right in the bin. I don't think we want any Fatal Pushes. We still need 3 more cuts if we want to fit all these things in. Tamiyo is kind of a little slow in this matchup, so I have to trim one of those. Bowmaster is not the most exciting. Barrowgoyf can find us some other threats, but does cost 3 mana. Alright, we just shave on threats and put in more interaction. We can't keep this one. Our opponent will just kill us on turn 1. Do I think a Surgical Extraction is good enough? Not really. They're keeping with 6. But I don't really know what else we're supposed to do here. I'm just keeping a bunch of blue cards in case we can get a turn, then we can Brainstorm into Force of Will, potentially. They don't always try and kill you on turn 1. Okay, looks like our opponent's going to try and kill us on turn 1. Okay, they're just playing Jack-O-Lantern. That being in their hand and not in the graveyard is interesting, because that means Surgical Extraction is actually way more likely to work. I would love to Wasteland my opponent, but I think we just need to have Daze and Brainstorm available this turn. And then we can start firing in these Wastelands. I wonder if they just cycle this off this turn. An untapped Bog. Cabal Ritual. I'm going to cast a Brainstorm here. Okay, I think getting to another turn would be really good for us. So I am going to Daze this. I want the Thoughtseize on top. And then I guess it's doesn't really matter what the other card is, does it? I will Daze this. If they can pay, then it can be a bit annoying, but they didn't pay. I think this is a Thoughtseize turn. It's amazing how many layers of interaction you need to actually beat the Oops or Spells deck. Let's take a look. A Barrowgoyf, a Reanimate, and a Memory's Journey. A Barrowgoyf, a Reanimate, and a Memory's Journey. Interesting. I'm not really kitted out to beat the Barrowgoyf yet, so I'm going to take the Barrowgoyf. And they are on a fair beatdown plan. Now our Graveyard Hate is going to stop this Reanimate from working. Okay, so they've made our spell fizzle. So they didn't want us to remove all of their Barrowgoyfs. Understood. Okay, let's play the Wasteland game. If you're trying to play a 3-drop creature and we can just take all your lands, that might be okay for us. Okay, I'll probably just F6 through their turn there. Just take out your other land. Okay, so now we just need to try and win the game while our opponent doesn't have any resources. A Brainstorm is an interesting one. I don't think we're going to fire this off right away. We can use it to protect our hand if our opponent wants to Thoughtseize us. They're unlikely to be able to do a full send and a Thoughtseize in the same turn off of no permanents in play and 5 cards in hand. So we can, like, save some of our good spells. I'm happy to Brainstorm on our turn to get a little bit deeper. Another Brainstorm, sure. Land, I like Bowmaster as well. Bowmaster into Kaito is a pretty good plan. Maybe put this back and this back. And we just hold up interaction and then use Kaito as our we're drawing extra cards thing. Because we could work towards getting this Tamiyo online, but this actually beats our opponent down, and that's a really important part here, because if we give our opponent infinite time, they will win the game. Let's get Bowboys in, ping the face. I wouldn't mind a land here. We can dig for one off the Kaito as well. I think this is also a situation where we bounce the Bowmasters rather than the Orc Army, because then that allows us to replay the Bowmaster and get more pressure in and finish the game slightly quicker. Okay, that's a pretty good one, isn't it? I think we just play this one instead of playing out the Kaito this turn. We can hold up Consign plus Force of Negation. The Kaito, once we get this in play, will answer any fair Barrowgoyf plans as well. Alright, they're scooping it up. So, Usual Spells is one of the very best decks at the moment, and the only two real bad matchups it has among like the top decks is Doomsday and Blue-Black Tempo. So if it wasn't for these like Blue-Black decks, then this Usual Spells deck would probably run over everyone. Alright, on to round number 5. We are currently 2-2. Let's see if we can get the positive, although we've been pretty close on the ones we've lost. This hand is kind of slow. Like, what are we doing with it? Just sort of treading water for a bit? I think we can do something a little bit better. One land. Not ideal. I think I would rather keep this one than the last one, so we will have a go on this. We've got the Daze here, so I think I'm just going to lead off on the Tamiyo. That way we can at least start building up some resources. Our opponent is less likely to wasteland us if we've got a Tamiyo, I think. In the before times when Entomb was still legal, you would have to Thoughtseize every turn 1 like this. I think the format is slower a little bit to the point we can actually invest our pressure piece first. Right, they would like to lightning bolt this. I would like to Daze this, please. You can Daze back, and we just reset the game, except we have the first play here, so it's kind of just a complete reset of the game, really, isn't it? Okay. So it looks like we're against some sort of is-it cutter deck. Let's Thoughtseize them and see how many wastelands they have. 2? 3 maybe? What is this? Prof's Eidetic Memory. When it enters, draw a card. You have no maximum hand size. Beginning of a combat on your turn. If you draw more than one card this turn, put a bunch of counters on a thing. They do have a wasteland. I'm going to take this Brainstorm. I don't want them being able to change the information they have. Their hand looks kind of soft. I'd like to keep it that way. Now, our opponent has a choice of wastelanding us or casting a Ponder. If they think they're the aggro in the matchup, they're going to go for the Ponder. So, oh wow, no. They just drew a Delver of Secrets. Oh, can we draw a land here? Poet information. I know this Bowmaster will work. Please, deck. Be my friend. Easy. Always had it. There you go. Black and 1. Here comes the boy. And now their Ponder's going to be stranded in their hand along with this Prof's Eidetic Memory as well. Because they're not going to want to use this into the Bowmasters. Savage. So the blue-black tempo deck is pretty good into the blue-red tempo deck because we go slightly bigger, which is kind of where you want to be in sort of fair matchups. All right, we're seeing a crack here. They might know that they can wasteland us soon, though, which I'm not looking forward to. Oh, is it just Murktide off the top, is it? Jeez. Rest in peace is me, I guess. Yikes. Yeah, some pretty banging draws there, opponent. Big Daddy Barrowgoyf. Well, I guess we are just getting chewed up and spat out by this massive dragon. We can't make a dragon that's as big yet either. Alright, they've also seen the opportunity to wasteland us here, so we're going to get a second Bowmasters in. Ping him down, but lose our mana, which takes us further away from the light that is Murktide Regent. So they crack him for 6, we crack him for 4, they get first attacks, and they're dealing more damage. This seems like a problem for us. So close, deck. So very close. I'm not happy about that, because we get one more turn to try and leverage this, and it's going to put us in range of Lightning Bolt. Where were you the previous turn? That's what I want to know. So they're going to put us to 4 here. No, to 5. Yeah, 5. And then if we draw a swamp to Snuff Out. Very funny deck. Very, very funny. Alright, let's go to sideboard. This game sometimes. The power of Murktide. It's pretty good, but we have Barrowgoyf, we have Shoulder's Edict, we have Hydroblasts. Brazen Borrower can bounce out on Murktide. Engine Explosives kills a bunch of their things. Toxic Deluge is an interesting one. I'm not in love with Thoughtseizes in the matchup, and I don't want to have the full set of forces in. I'm also not in love with Daze that much. So we've got these. Would I like a Toxic Deluge just to sweep up all their annoying little tokens, maybe. And we'll keep a Miser's Daze in. You do sometimes want Force of Wills. Their deck's very good at playing around the Dazes and stuff. So we've only got one in there. It's like a nice thing that we can sometimes hit upon. Wastelands aren't going to cut it, so we're going to mulligan this one. Island Ponder, that's not a bad start. We're going to need to find a black source, but I think we can start off on a basic and work our way towards it. What goes back here? Probably not the Barrowgoyf. That card is just so good here. Is it the Deluge? I think it's the Deluge. When we get to 3, we're probably going to want to cast our Barrowgoyf anyway. Let's crack this. Go and get ourselves a basic island. Boring basic island. Let's ponder. Oh, deck. I think this is still okay. We don't really want this Force of Will. So we put the Force of Will on the bottom. Then the Brainstorm. And then we draw the Undercity Sewers. Next turn we draw the Brainstorm. And then we mill over the Force of Will. If we have to put Tamiyo into the Force of Will to stop something like a Corrie Steelcutter, I'll do it. It's definitely annoying that our land is coming in untapped next turn. We're going to see a threat. Is it DRC? It's an island, is it just a ponder? Okay, that's exactly what we want to see from our opponent. If they're not committing stuff to the board, that gives us time to get through this top of our deck selection of cards that we kind of need to get through. Mull this over. So we had an option of playing a Tamiyo there, but I'd rather play a Tamiyo with the Brainstorm out. And if our opponent's not pressuring us, we've got time to make plays like that. Our opponent also has Red Blast in post-board, so the Tamiyos are a little bit less useful than they were in game 1. Not that they were particularly useful there anyway. A Wasteland. Don't love that for us. Goodbye, Undercity Sewers. And no follow-up play. Alright, let's cast a Brainstorm. Are you going to counter my Brainstorm so we can't find a land drop? That would be a little bit rude. Okay. I'm not going to Force of Will Daze on our Brainstorm. We're just going to have to let that go and come back to it later. We've got another Brainstorm at least. Delver of Secrets. Just a swamp off the top. Not a swamp off the top. Let's Brainstorm. Okay, we're going to put back this Wasteland. And what? The Barrowgoyf for next turn. So I guess we go Bowmasters, Wasteland. Play this out. We can take out this little Delver of Secrets. And then we can try and leverage what we've got in hand here. I think it's going to be a case of trying to use our force to make sure our Barrowgoyf sticks, but our opponent hasn't really committed very much to the board yet. Dragon's Rage Channeler, that's fine. It's a 3-3. So here's the question. Am I willing to play into a Daze? Is it too early for this card? But they could just Wasteland and take us off of some colours. I think I am just going to play into this. They've already used one Daze. We have a Force of Will I will use to get this through. Oh, wow, it just worked. Alright, our opponent's in trouble. A Force of Will protect a Barrowgoyf in your red aggressive matchup. That's exactly where we want to be. Unholy Heat targeting our poor defenseless Barrowgoyf. I'll let them mill over with their Dragon's Rage Channeler. And then we're going to try and fight to save this. Alright, it worked. I don't know how many Unholy Heats they're going to have in their deck. I'd be surprised if it's more than 2. It's normally in the 1 or 2 category. Generally speaking, it's 1. A lot of people are splitting between like 4 bolts, 1 chain lightning, 1 Unholy Heat is quite common. But some people do have the 2 Unholy Heats just because of how scary Barrowgoyf is, which is fine. This card is a horrible monstrosity, so being able to answer it makes a lot of sense, especially in your deck that's trying to clock your opponent's life tail. Dragon's Rage Channeler has to attack, which means we get in with the Barrowgoyf and maybe get a free card. Our opponent hasn't got anything to deal with this right now. We're going to see a Dismember here? No. Alright, so we can shoot this down with a Bowmasters and leave up the island so that we can potentially cast a Tamiyo if we draw it. Let's see what Barrowgoyf finds. Brazen Borrower, not quite Tamiyo, but I'll still take it. I have to come in for 3. Not a race that's working well for you there, opponent. Lightning Bolting the Barrowgoyf. Sure. Are you double Lightning Bolting my guy? I will take that. It's already drawn me a card, gained me 4 life, and now you're going to spend 2 cards on it. Okay. Let's get Bowmasters in to push some damages here. And then we're going to double Wasteland our opponent and put them in the dirt, hopefully, so they can't cast Murktides or anything. So the Dragon Rage Channeler means they are committed to this race because they can't do anything else with the Channeler. It has to keep attacking. And we have a higher low total, and we attack for more. Thundering Falls, that's not going to help them apply pressure this turn. Our cantrips are off, which shuts off a lot of the use of Dragon's Rage Channeler, being able to like shred the top of your deck and look for the things you need. That's going to come at too big a cost. We have 2 Borrowers, so we can just keep out any big threats like Murktide Regent. I think we're okay here. It can certainly snowball out of control if our opponent like goes land, Murktide, holding up Pyroblast. I guess we can just ram a couple of Brazen Borrowers into it. If you're going to use this Wasteland, you should have used it already, unless they're trying to play around a Daze. That makes sense. And so here comes Big Daddy Murktide. This will shrink the Channeler, most likely. They might have too many things in to actually... They can probably keep the Channeler as a 3/3 if they want to. But they know we have a Brazen Borrower, so they're casting this into the Brazen Borrowers. They may only make a small one here. Because they saw this when we got it back off of the Barrowgoyf. They don't know we have 2 though. 5 cards. They're making it as big as they can. And shrinking their little guy. You going to Wasteland me now that you've played around Daze? You are. They theft your guy. Are we about to get dazed? No. So this was a face-up play that our opponent knew was going to happen. Ponder, yes please. Some more lands. I don't hate lands. Am I willing to trade my Orcish Bowmaster for their Dragon's Rage Channeler? Puts our opponent on a 2-turn clock. Yes, I am. So if they go for another Murktide, we can bounce it. We'll probably draw the land just so we can play around Daze. Yeah, so here comes Murktide again. 1, 2, 3. I think the first Murktide should have been smaller. Big enough that we have to interact with it, but they don't have to go the full size because they knew we're likely to bounce it. I'm just going to take the land off the top so that we can play around a Daze. They have to have Forcible Blue card here. Let's get a Swamp with this one, so we're playing on basics. Matt, I think this is likely game over here. You have to have exactly Forcible Blue card or you die. They now know that we have 2 Brazen Borrowers. They might think we have more. Okay, I like how we're set up here. The Dazes get worse post-board. Maybe we just have another Force. Because Force just protects our Barrowgoyf so well. Just play Protect the Queen with Barrowgoyf. Sure, this hand seems okay. Hydro Blast is always nice. Tamiyo is a lot of card advantage that we might be able to muster here. It might just eat a Lightning Bolt, which is also fine. If we can draw a second blue source, we might hold off on the Tamiyo to try and get the Brainstorm combo going. We'll see what our opponent's up to, and then we can make some more informed decisions. If they don't play a threat here, I'm happy to Wasteland them. If they do play a threat, we're probably just going to Hydro Blast this. Alright, a Mishra's Bauble, getting some Surveil action here. They can attack with this as a 3-power guy next turn, potentially. I assume this is getting cracked immediately. Yep, makes sense. I'm going to play this one and just Hydro Blast their threat straight away. We've got stuff we want to do with our mana for a few turns. If we hold off trying to play around Daze the entire time, that's not going to go well, so we just play into it. If they don't have it, it's great. If they do, then it slows their roll a little bit as well. Now we can just play the Tamiyo plus Brainstorm game that everyone knows and loves. A Preordain, sure. Okay, the Wasteland is a little bit awkward for us. Am I going to Wasteland their Wasteland? Do I think they would play this out if they had another mana source? That's a different question, isn't it? I'm going to Wasteland them here. Take out your Volcanic Island. Am I just going to play out this Tamiyo right now? I think I'm okay to do that. I've got the impression that they don't have another red source in hand. I could be just completely wrong, but it felt like playing out the Wasteland there. I don't know why you would do that. If we had a non-basic land, sure. I think if you had any other land, you'd play it and represent spells. Yep, okay, we correctly identify what was happening there. And we get to just play this nonsense game now. Tap the Tamiyo. Just pull ahead every single turn. We could flip this and try and race the top, but our opponent is playing a Pyroblast deck. So just making sure we bank the clues is a much better way of using this card. If they spend a card on our Tamiyo, then we can flip it. We're a pretty comfortable life total. We've got a rock solid hand of good stuff here that we want for the matchup. We're ahead on board. Feels like a good place to be. I'm not going to crack this clue because that invites a Pyroblast on our guy. If they tap out, then I obviously will. Blue mana. A Delver of Secrets, you say? Sure. I will crack my clue. Another Tamiyo. Plays Underground Sea, and I will Fatal Push your Delver of Secrets. We've got more Fatal Pushes where that come from. We're using on basic so they can't take us off of black mana on their turn. Volcanic Island. Alright, here comes some sort of large Murktide based creature, I would imagine. So this is where I would like to Brainstorm in response, I think, here. See if we can hit one of our forces. We didn't hit one of our forces. How are we going to deal with this guy? We can just play a land and slam down a Kaito. What do I want to mill over here? If anything. We'll also just put 2 lands on top. Because I quite like our hand. Right. Are they going to Wasteland us off of a Kaito here? We could also go for the Bowmasters plan to secure this. Because if this comes in as a ninja, it's going to be way better for us. Because they won't be able to counter it. Right, let's play this one out. Let's plus Tamiyo if your opponent's interested in fighting over that one. So I want to just get this little Bowmaster in now. The creature isn't actually that large. Right, we'll get another Tamiyo in. If they attack, then the Tamiyo can just be our Kaito enabler. We don't need the Bowmasters, but they might go for like a Brainstorm, and then the Brainstorm gets absolutely cooked by this Bowmasters that just kills their Murktide. Red, red. Corrie Steel Cutter. You got it. 2 cards in hand. Is it Brainstorm time? Please tell me it's Brainstorm time. Lightning Bolt time. Targeting my poor defenseless Tamiyo. There's not a window where we get to shoot this monk down. Both coming at Tamiyo. Let's go for a little Bowmaster action. I don't want the last card in their hand to be Daze. It is Daze. Okay. So we lose the Tamiyo. But they have 1 card in hand here. And we know it's the land. Brainstorm is an above average draw, I would say. Let's have that one. 1, 2, 3. We're going to pay 3 for life here. So we kill all their guys. Goodbye your board. And then we can just stick a Kaito and try and navigate our way through with that. We'll also have access to a Fatal Push if they can string together some guys. There is a Brainstorm. And there is a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Yeah, slightly tough boat, this one. Got a land over there. It's going to go and fetch from a Thundering Falls in our turn. I think we need to Brainstorm here. Something like a Murktide Regent is just absolute banging here. Tamiyo, Orcish Bowmasters. Tamiyo is pretty good at holding stuff back. If we go... we've already cast a Brainstorm. So our guy isn't flipping. So I guess we go... Kaito Bowmasters or Bowmasters Kaito? Bowmasters Kaito, I think. Then we deploy Tamiyo. Fatal Push the Channeler. And then we have access to a Brainstorm in our turn. Sorry, in our opponent's turn that can flip the Tamiyo if they have a removal spell for it. Or if we block and they try and grow their guy, we can then flip our Tamiyo out of the way and prevent damage. Right, just putting us to the test there. Blue, blue. Is this Big Daddy Murktide? It is. So Kaito has a job now. I think I'm happy with the Tamiyo doing what it's doing right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get this in. We're going to stun this Murktide. Go to sleep. And we'll leave the Tamiyo back for blocks. We know we've got a Bowmaster coming up, so we kind of just need to fade this one turn of our opponent being able to push through our Tamiyo. We want to see them put the card into the bin, and then... Okay, they did put the card into the bin, and we want them to draw another land and play it. That's the ideal for us here. And we'll protect the Kaito. You got a spell? No. So we get to keep our Tamiyo as well. Nice. And we're plussing this so that we can get another round out of it. I will attack with both of my guys. Get a clue. Now we're Tamiyo gaming. I'm going to cast this Brainstorm. It's a good Pyroblast target if our opponent has it. Shoulder's Edict is fine too. We don't really want this, do we? Sure, I'll put the land on top. I'll plus this. So we could crack a clue right now. And that gives us access for this, but then we're not playing around Daze, but I think that's also fine. Let's crack a clue. Gives us our land. Now we can play the Bowmaster. Pretty good series of games this against the blue-red Delver. Like, we're both doing similar things. We're trying to like cycle through our draws, sculpt little game plans, and have sort of mid to long-term strategies. Alright, I am not able to resist this Bowmasters. How do you feel about this one, opponent? Ping this for 1. Get prowess. You get your Brainstorm. I'm going to load all the triggers on this just in case I want to grow it in response. Because if they were to lightning bolt it and we only put 3 damage on it, then all of a sudden they get to keep their guy. It's large, it has trample, it can hurt our planeswalkers, and I just don't really want any part of that. I doubt we're going to lose this game by single points of damage that we didn't put to the face of the Bowmaster. We might lose to them being able to grow their guy big enough. Petty Theft on our poor defenseless Orc army token. So they can attack here. They go in at the Kaito here. They can put 1 damage on the Kaito. Now they're coming in at the Kaito, but they've got 2 Planeswalkers to deal with. Sure, Kaito can take 1. We can just Shoulder's Edict away the Murktide. And then they also have this Tamiyo ticking up to contend with. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature of their choice. Goodbye, Murktide Regent. Alright, our opponents had enough of that, and they've scooped it up. So we finished the league with a 3-2, and the 2 rounds we lost were 1-2, so they definitely could have gone the other way, which is kind of what you expect from Tempo. It's got game into a lot of different things, and it has some really good matchups on the way, like Oops All Spells, which you tend to dominate, and it has some slightly trickier matchups. The Eldrazi matchup was a little bit awkward for us. We certainly have the tools to beat it, though, but sometimes your opponent's going to stick that unkillable big boy, and we're going to have a bad time. The fact that one of the rounds we lost was to the Mirror kind of just shows you where this deck is at right now. I think their deck is much better kitted out for the Mirror, and I do just like having a bit of Triumph over something like Snuff Out. This is very situational. Now, sometimes being 0 mana is really clutch. I think being able to actually destroy an opposing Planeswalker is something that our deck doesn't have the ability to do, and we definitely need that ability. So I would 100% cut this for a bit of Triumph. I think that is... You're just tempting fate by just saying we can't answer a resolved Planeswalker unless we attack it. And considering Kaito stops large creatures attacking, Tamiyo stops small creatures attacking, it can be very difficult to pressure this combination of Planeswalkers. So I do think you want some bit of Triumph, possibly some in the sideboard as well. Like, we've got Shoulder's Edict, that kind of helps, but I think you definitely need something in the main. Other than that, the deck's pretty stock and standard. Like, we all know it's really strong. It's been sort of the most played deck for a little while now. It's kind of eating out the meta share of the other sort of big tempo deck in the Blue-Red Delver deck. That's trimmed down quite a bit on its play rate. And despite this deck being the best performing, the most represented deck in the format, it's also performing quite above rate. For the last 5 weeks, it's had an over-rep rate of 1.5, which means that based on its meta share, you'd expect it to get a similar meta share in top 8s, like balanced out over numbers. However, it's got 50% more appearances in top 8 placings than you would expect based on its meta share. So instead of being like a 10% meta share and a 10% top 8 share, it's a 10% and then a 15%, that sort of thing. So I think this deck is very good, and I think it's large off the back of Tamiyo. This card is really obnoxious and strong. Now, the deck can obviously play different ways, and there are other builds that run more 1-drops, like things like Nethergoyf. And that deck has a slightly different matchup spread because it's better at applying pressure, but Tamiyo is definitely a really scary card for a lot of people to face. Alright, I think we're done with this one, so thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you can help me hit that number, that would be lovely. And once again, congratulations to Tim van der Lans for winning the Bazaar of Boxes with this. And with that, goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepts, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepts guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.